Thanksgiving and good morning, everyone. It's metalhead Weatherman here. I was working on this video last night, but I ran into a few unforeseen issues, so I apologize for this video not being up sooner. But we're doing it now. We're also going to be covering Black Friday here, so make sure you're hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and we're going to tell you exactly what's ahead here. We're going to do this region by region here. First piece of news here that we have to talk about: no severe weather, not really a surprise. The pattern's active, but the conditions are not really coming together for severe here, so it's pretty good news. And this pretty much leads all the way into the weekend too, so consider some of this a weekend forecast. We'll have that, of course, tomorrow evening. But we are going to go ahead and take a look at the main topic that I've seen with this, and that's going to be the temperature drop. It's gotten pretty cold, in case you haven't noticed, this morning. Across a large part of the country, some of us aren't even waking up to above freezing temperatures. A large portion of the northern states, this isn't uncommon for you guys. We're dealing with mainly 20s, 30s, and towards the heart of the country, and even towards the south, we're dealing with some lower to mid 40s, some upper 40s. And then even towards the west coast here, we're not even seeing any lows towards 60, which is notable. And then as time goes on here, so we go throughout the day, we get a little bit of warmth going here. Mainly towards the west coast is where it's going to be warmest, where we're dealing with the highs in the 60s and 70s here. Pretty nice considering the kind of year we've had here where the heat's been sweltering. So you look further up to the north towards the Rockies, that's where those coldest temperatures are going to exist, especially towards those mountain tops. We're actually expecting snow towards this region today, throughout the day today, mainly towards the morning hours. Some more is possible during the afternoon though. But in the valleys, though, I wouldn't expect too much. Towards the northwest, of course, we're slightly above freezing, and the weather pattern should be all right for the most part. I really just think the mountains are going to be the most active area as far as snowfall is concerned. Towards the northern plains, we're mainly just going to be dealing with cool temperatures throughout the day. We're dealing with some temperatures not even getting above 20, depending on where you are, especially towards North Dakota. And then as we push off to the south here, we're starting to get into the 50s. A couple of 60s are possible across the region throughout the day, but those will quickly start to vanish as we get later into the evening. Then towards the deep south, mainly 50s being predominant. Towards Florida, we're dealing with some 60s, maybe some 70s are possible over here. We'll go back a couple frames. I do think maybe towards South Florida is where we're probably likely to see some 80s, if anything. And there's one of the slides that does have it. But anyway, northeast is also going to be cold. Some morning snow is possible over here towards Adirondacks and the far reaches of the northern reaches of the Appalachians here. So no real surprise there. We've been talking about that for a while. You could see potential for up to about an inch or two in the higher elevations. Outside of that, nothing to really be concerned with. But we'll keep this going here. This is right towards where we were, and then tonight, of course, be a little bit warmer, but still for the most part, especially if you're over towards the mountains, it's going to be pretty frigid. We could even see a few single digits here. They're possible, not guaranteed, but they're definitely possible. And then over towards the mountains here towards the northeast, pretty much the same thing. So as we get towards the morning of Black Friday, depending on where you are, make sure you're bundled up just in case, because it might be unseasonably cool for a lot of us. So we go through the day tomorrow. For the most part, we warm up pretty nicely towards the southeast here in particular. We're starting to see some 50s and 60s coming back into the equation for a larger part of the southeast here. Those northern states, however, it's a lot chillier. Another storm system is going to be rolling in here, bringing in the potential of snowfall. We'll take a closer look at that in just a moment. Another thing to make note of, while there isn't going to be widespread wind, anywhere where it's already chilly and you have those wind gusts coupled in, it's going to make for some pretty brutal, noticeably brutal wind chills here. So I haven't seen anything in the way of wind chill advisories, wind chill watches, warnings, etc. But it will definitely make a notable difference if you're outside. So let's say you're out there deep frying the turkey, just make sure you're a little bit more insulated, and of course make sure you practice safe precautions. A lot of house fires have happened in the past years because of that. But for the most part throughout the evening, and into the nighttime. Like I said, the main focus of high winds are going to mainly be offshore here for the west coast, and of course in the mountains. Same thing for the northeast, and then towards the heart of the country where that low is going to be pushing off towards, we could see some 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts possible here. So as we go towards Friday, we see those wind gusts push their way off to the east just a little bit here, but they kind of diminish throughout the day here, really starting to pick up later in the evening. Hopefully by that point you've gotten most of your Black Friday shopping done already by then. If not, just again, make sure you're staying insulated. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. So we get towards Saturday, college game day. We'll probably see a pretty similar deal with the winds here. Probably pushing a little bit more towards the southeast and maybe increasing in intensity throughout the day here. But that being said, for the most part, the winds are going to be notable mainly in a couple of areas. Everywhere else, the wind should be rather calm, which will be nice. So now the next thing we'll go ahead and look at here is the overall precip map. And what we'll see here, of course, is that low pressure, which is going to be causing that snowfall towards the northern tier of the Rockies. And then, of course, chance of rain towards the Gulf Coast, too. Outside of that, not really too much to talk about at the moment. As we get towards Black Friday, however, we do see a few flurries possible towards Kansas and Nebraska. That low pressure is kind of weakening, though, so could be a couple good bursts of snow, especially as we head towards Saturday morning and into the afternoon. But this is going to be a quick mover, so I wouldn't expect much in the way of accumulation from this at this time. We will be keeping an eye on it, of course. We'll get more details tomorrow on the weekend forecast. So what I want to look at now really is the potential for snowfall totals. This is our model comparison that we can take a look at. We're going to start out with the Euro here. Like I said, mainly the Rocky Mountains are going to be the hot spot here, so to speak, throughout the start of the weekend here. So up towards the higher elevation peaks, we could probably see maybe 2 to 3 feet of snow. But outside of that, we're dealing with the widespread areas where we could see about 6 to 8 inches, some places even pushing towards 10 inches, maybe even a foot. But outside of that, the snow starts to taper off the further off to the east we go. And there is chances of accumulation, but they're rather light at this time. Oops, didn't want to do that. But we're seeing mainly just about 2 inches over here towards this area. I do think that the snowfall total could increase as we go through Saturday here, when I think most of the lion's share of that snowfall will start to come in for this region here. Also towards the northeast here, not much in the way of accumulation. It's just going to be a brief little burst of snow, if anything, here. I wouldn't expect a whiteout or anything of that sort. That's just the Euro. Let's go ahead and go to the Canadian model. Pretty similar deal here. These models usually will tend to be in agreement, the Euro and the Canadian model. Sometimes the Canadian does kind of flop over to the GFS a bit too. And this is the GFS, by the way, that we're speaking of which. Totals are actually a little bit less aggressive with this, but you're seeing a little bit more action over here towards the northeast here, which I find interesting. And then here we go getting into a convective model here, HRRR. HRRR is very aggressive on this one. This pocket here was only showing a little less than 3 feet of snow. This time we're actually exceeding 3 feet. You can see this little, if I can get it, there it is, 38 inches of snow up towards the mountaintops here. Be a good start to winter for the ski slope industry, that's for sure. For the skiing and snowboarding industries, that's for sure. Here's the NAM. NAM tends to usually be pretty aggressive, but actually not quite as aggressive as the NAM here, which I find very surprising. And then as we go with the NAM 3 kilometer, a little less aggressive. It's kind of actually matching the NAM, which you don't always see, which is kind of laughable sometimes. It's more of a weather thing, if anything. Then we look at the British model. British model's actually been doing pretty good this year, if I'm being honest. Sometimes I've disregarded it, but definitely should take that more merit into, put it, a little bit more merit into that. But we also see a lot of a similar deal. Actually, the British model is a lot less aggressive than I was expecting. So we'll see what total ends up, what the final total will end up being, and which model at this point in time was closer to accurate here. Then the experimental model. This is a new model that came out earlier this year, the RRFSA. It's done very well, in my honest opinion. It's kind of matching with the British model here, which is also pretty interesting. So a lot of different outcomes from these models as far as snowfall is concerned. But if we actually go to the blend of models here, it's interesting what we end up finding. Less love for the Northeast as far as snowfall, or if you don't want to see snowfall, that's more love for you. Also seeing inklings of maybe the lake effect machine starting to come into effect here. So we may see increasing snowfall towards this region as time goes on. But for the most part, I see the National Weather Service blender model. This is pretty much a culmination of all the models being put together and then finding a medium between them all. I'm noticing that in particular we're kind of leaning more towards the British model outcomes and a little bit more towards the Euro and the Canadian, which is interesting. Sometimes there's usually a little bit more of a leniency towards the GFS, sometimes the American models, but in this case, I do think that we're pushing more towards the less aggressive outcomes here, so to speak. Usually, like I said, this will be more of a happy medium type model where you get the mean between everything. But it looks like in this case, we're definitely leaning more towards the European style models, which is good. A little less snow, but still plenty of snow. It's healthy for this region here. Like I said, it's definitely going to help the snowboarding and skiing industry over here. With that being said, this is what the weekend's looking like. Heck of a start to the holidays here. But appreciate everyone who's tuned in, stuck around through all the quiet times. We'll be more active on the channel. We'll have a video up in the morning. Until then, this has been Metalhead Weatherman. Take care. Again, happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you in the next one.